Okay. Well, I think we'll get started. I'm sure we'll have a few more folks pop in. Typically happens, but let's begin. Um, I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Patrick Lightbody, and I'm one of the co-founders of Reclaim. And I'm really happy to have you here this morning or afternoon or wherever it is for you in the world. Apologies, I don't have my camera on. Otherwise, I'd be waving to you all. My camera is not working today. But basically, we're going to use this time to dive into some of the best practices on how to use Reclaim. Definitely would like to make it an open exchange, and so please feel free to put questions into the Q&A section you'll see in the webinar client. You can just throw them out as you have them, and I will gladly answer them as we go through the presentation. Basically, what I'm going to show you is some of Reclaim. I'm sure you're all somewhat familiar with Reclaim, but there may be some features and capabilities that you aren't yet aware of that I want to make sure we cover, and tell you a little more about our philosophy behind the product, and maybe even cover a bit of where we're taking it next. But your questions will definitely help steer the dialogue. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to assume that anyone who's watching this video has likely already signed up for the service. And we already got our first question there. I'll get to it in 1 second. No need to apologize for quick questions. I think that's fantastic. But I will get to it in just a minute. I'm assuming most of you have already had a chance to sign up for Reclaim. And so what I want to do is just share with you a little bit of the onboarding experience as I talk through some of the concepts. I'm sure it's all something you've seen, but the underlying philosophy may not be quite so apparent. So what I'm sharing here is the initial onboarding experience that again you've probably seen if you've signed up for Reclaim. And as you know, Reclaim does a number of things around taking control of your schedule and helping you get in front of things that are important to you, whether it's personal commitments that are coming from other calendars or regular routines you want to get into, whether they're personal like exercise or professional in nature, like making sure that you stay on top of your email inbox. And then of course we have more advanced functionality like our tasks feature and tasks integrations and our management of one-on-ones that we call smart one-on-ones. The key thing I wanted to highlight, I think, is sort of why we start with this question. On one hand, we do it because it's the simplest question to ask, and it's almost universal. Everybody who's got a busy life and a busy job is often struggling to manage their time, and in particular, take a break to just get away from their desk a little bit and get a bite to eat and disconnect from work for a moment. And so it's kind of this universal pain, but it's also actually so much more than that, because it's the first step in you becoming intentional with your time. And that's a really important concept and theme with Reclaim, is that we want you to be intentional with your time and to lean on the Reclaim platform to help you be intentional with your time. And we believe that if you start this journey and you take this first step for something as mundane as a break in the middle of the day to get lunch, that you will eventually be in a position where you can be intentional with all of your professional time that's being spent on the job. And that includes aligning your time for the things that are most important to you and your business. So we start simple. And as you continue to stick with Reclaim and see our platform evolve, I think you'll see that we will continue to add functionality that goes deeper and deeper around time and intentionality. The other question we ask is often about catching up on just all the miscellaneous things. If you have one or both of these catch-up habits enabled, I would encourage you to look at it. Use it however you would like. It's typically meant for you to, prep your day. So, have one session in the morning where you can look at your calendar. You can check all the emails that came in overnight, and really kind of get intentional and get into the mindset of getting your day done. and then wrapping it up. So one more at the end of the day. You don't necessarily need, hours of time, but even 30 minutes can help you stay on top of things and keep you, from being too overwhelmed. Of course, here we connect the calendars. I'm going to skip this step for a moment. This is a new step we've added to the onboarding that you might not have seen when you first signed up. But we'll talk about Smart One-on-Ones momentarily. And the calendar sync I've already got enabled, so I'm going to skip this step as well. I mostly just wanted to kind of have the onboarding as a backdrop as I discussed the intentionality design philosophy that is inside of our product. So at this point, you're signed up, and this is probably where a lot of you all are with Reclaim. And what I want to do is take a moment to kind of walk through some of the main functionality, but highlight the things that you might not already have been aware of. And I'm going to start by actually not looking too much in the Reclaim UI, but actually spending a little more time in the Google Calendar UI. We're really proud of the web interface we've built, and we're continually improving it. But we also recognize that you're busy people, and you've got a lot of routines and habits that you're already used to, and you're already working in platforms like Google Calendar or project management systems like Jira or Asana or ClickUp, and that we want you to be able to stay where you are and still get the power of Reclaim managing your schedule. And so I'm going to spend time in other, you can see the tabs across the top, in other platforms as well, not just in the Reclaim UI. To get started, let's talk about habits. And so you may have already noticed that habits can be ranked. And again, this is in that spirit of intentionality, of really kind of plotting out what is your ideal day. So I'd encourage you, as you come to the habits screen, to think of the habits as the way to express what is most important to you and how you'd like to run your normal, typical day. I won't go into all the features of habits. You can certainly experiment with them and see, all the different settings, especially some of the more advanced settings. But the main thing to highlight is that habits are a way for you to tell Reclaim how you want to manage your day and how you want to spend this time. And you can probably have already seen that it can be flexible in nature. And so in this case, this is a lunch habit between 11 and 2, saying ideally at 12 o'clock, we should have lunch, and somewhere between, around 30 to 60 minutes. The thing I really want to highlight is, and you can kind of see it down here with this time defense concept, is how Reclaim manages your free busy time. And so, here we're looking at this week. I'm going to go to next week, so we have a full week. And you'll notice that some of these habits and tasks as well have a free emoji, and some of them have a shield emoji. And if you haven't already figured out what that signifies, that's basically Reclaim telling you, and also anyone else who might be looking at your calendar, if it's a shield, that the time is near the end, like you're just about out of time. And so, for example, if I go into the find a time workflow that a coworker might use to book time with you, you'll notice that a lot of these catch-up slots are not visible. And for example, the lunch on Tuesday is not visible. And the reason it's not visible is that Reclaim is detecting automatically whether you have space around your calendar. And this find a time workflow, by the way, this is exactly how, if you're using a service like Calendly or other scheduling links, also works. They're looking at your free busy time, and Reclaim is constantly evaluating your holistic schedule and figuring out whether we should defend the time and mark it as busy in advance, or whether we should keep it open and flexible, knowing that it can get rescheduled. So for example, if a meeting were to land because somebody was using Find a Time, looked like I was free from 11 to 12, Reclaim has already figured out that there's some time later in the afternoon to reschedule that lunch habit. So in a moment here, you'll see that Reclaim will automatically reschedule the lunch habit. But when it does, it will do so in a way that makes that lunch habit busy. And so now it's like if you're into kind of electrical stuff, you might think of it as a circuit breaker, whereas your calendar gets too overloaded, the lunch habit will automatically snap and now defend the time. So now when someone else might be looking to find a time to meet with me, now they're seeing I'm actually busy for 2 hours, the time before and the time after. So that's kind of one key concept, is that Reclaim is there to help you express your ideal day and your requirements and your goals and all the demands on your time. But it's also there to recognize that if you're a busy professional, you likely want to schedule time and reschedule time and adapt your schedule so that you can meet with other people. In particular, managers, program managers, people managers, their job is to do meetings. And so, if you've ever tried just like manually time blocking things out, you probably have found that that doesn't work so well because it interrupts the ability to get meetings scheduled. So that's a core concept of Reclaim that I want to just make sure you understand. This feeds into a few other core concepts. So one, that all the free busy management is meant to help you better kind of work with the tools you have and work where you are. And so another way to kind of see that philosophy shine through is that you can change things around. And so, for example, you can say, you know what, actually, I know by Wednesday morning, I'm going to be way behind on emails. And so I want to just go ahead and create a 2-hour block that morning. Reclaim will adapt and learn and say, oh, okay, well, that's the plan on Wednesday. So you don't need to go into the Reclaim UI to make adjustments to your schedule. In fact, we have a calendar add-on. If you haven't found it, you can just click this little plus, search for Reclaim, and you'll see an add-on. And the add-on provides nice little functionality too. Like if you want to lock a particular event in place, you'll see that locking it will make sure it doesn't move any further, and it will start to defend it as busy. So there you go. You can see it's now got the shield on there. So again, in the spirit of be where you are, the Reclaim is really leaning into using the tools that you've already got rather than requiring you to have to go back into this web interface. And so that's not to say that you can't go back and use this. Certainly, we also support that here. If you can see I can make movements as well. The dashed lines, if you haven't noticed, that basically is the same thing as the free emoji signifying that. So I think that's about all I'll say on habits for the moment. And I'm going to go just check the questions. I know there have been a couple questions that have come in, and I want to make sure we get those addressed. So one moment. So the first one is it possible to handle colleagues' calendars to quickly find the best time to meet? So the short answer is we do some scheduling between your coworkers. For example, we have this smart one-on-one feature, and I'll touch on this in just a moment. And it will automatically adapt to changing schedules for both parties. So if it's between two people and it's a regular recurring meeting, check out the smart one-on-ones. My guess is that the question is really getting to the heart. That the question is really getting to the heart of is around other scheduling workflows, whether it might be multiple people or non-recurring meetings, just a one-time meeting. For now, we lean heavily, as I just demonstrated, we lean heavily into the existing tooling and workflows that are already there. So for example, you can use Calendly, or you can just rely on the Find a Time feature. And you'll see that Reclaim is already easing the process by making your calendar as free as possible while still ensuring that you get the time that you need to do everything. But in the near future, we will be offering up additional scheduling workflows. So later this year, you can expect to see scheduling links and integrations directly into Gmail, for example, as well as multi-person recurring smart meetings, not just smart one-on-ones. So hopefully that answers all of your questions on that front. The second question was, how do you deal with shared calendars? Yeah, this is a pretty classic one. I think the person who asked this question has a similar situation I do, which is a shared calendar with your spouse, for example. So you can, for example, you've probably all figured out that you can share or sync calendars. And what we're doing in this case is we're watching a source calendar. So here is like a family calendar. And then we're copying the events over to a target calendar. And usually this would be a calendar that would be your main calendar, the one that you want to appear busy to other people. And so that's what's happening here. So for example, personal commitment is something that came from that family calendar. And when you have the add-on, you can actually see what is underneath it. So this one is a regular family movie night that's coming from that family calendar. The tricky thing is that sometimes, especially with shared calendars, there might be things that you don't necessarily want to sync, and block out time on your calendar. So in those cases that you've got a couple of options. One is, and this is what I do with my wife, is we actually invite each other to meetings rather than having a family calendar. Or if we have, I should say we have a family calendar, but we also invite our personal calendar. So in my case, my patrick@lightbody.net personal calendar is invited to certain events, and I will RSVP to it. I will say yes or no. If you don't RSVP to it, it will still copy over, but it'll copy over as free time, which means that Reclaim will schedule on top of it. If you RSVP no, Reclaim will remove the personal commitment. And if you RSVP yes or maybe, it will lock in the personal commitment and mark it as busy. We have other visibility settings besides personal commitments, including the ability to copy the details over. But the same concept applies, is that the RSVP is a great tool to use to help tell Reclaim whether it should actually be blocked out as busy on the destination side of the calendar sync. So I hope that helps answer the question. There are some other tools as well. We have, for example, some actually I can show you right here, hashtags, including the ability to put on no sync. So if you put the hashtag no sync anywhere in the text of a source calendar event, it will not block the event out. So that's another alternative, as opposed to copying attendees, invitees to the event and then RSVPing. You can also mark the event as free at the source, and it will get pulled off of the target calendar. So there's a few different ways to handle it. And happy to dive into more details there. But in general, we recommend you use the calendar sync. We usually recommend, especially if you have a corporate calendar that other people might be looking at, that you use one of these two settings, either the personal commitment, which provides a little bit of context, or the busy for all, which provides no context, rather than these other two settings. You'll notice we put a little warning. And the reason for that is that in corporate environments, IT administrators might be able to see and view all the source details, even if it's fully private. And so you'd want to be careful with some of those settings. Okay, so let's get back to just a couple other things to highlight. So we've covered habits and how Reclaim manages free and busy time. I want to just now jump into tasks and highlight a couple of things about how tasks work. So I'm going to make two tasks. Important task 1. So I need 1 hour to get an important task done. Oops, I had a typo. Apologies for that. And I'm going to say, so I'm going to also have a 30-minute, small task. And the thing I wanted to highlight to you is that Reclaim will automatically figure out how to schedule things on your calendar based on the ranking of these tasks. So for example, right now, I've got this important task set up, and actually I'm going to clear my snooze here just so it schedules sooner. And you'll see that the important task will schedule right here, and then the small task schedules later in the day. You also notice that both of them are marked as free, and the reason they're marked as free is because they are not at risk of missing their due date. They're both due in a few days, and Reclaim is automatically detecting that the scheduled time is in advance of the due date and that you could push this stuff back and still make it. So for example, I can come over here and right click and say, reschedule for another day. And you'll see that time will pop up probably somewhere on, let's see, oh, you know what, it may not actually have scheduled because there isn't actually a full hour, so it didn't schedule until next Monday. And now you'll notice that the time is blocked out and defended. And the reason it's defended is because it's now past the due date. And that's where we start to see the thing get at risk. And so, for example, we're highlighting, we're saying it's at risk of missing its due date in 3 days because it's scheduled after the due date. And so I wanted to just show you some examples of how Reclaim helps you better defend the time, but also, again, be flexible to incoming meeting requests. You can change it up always. You can clear the snoozes, for example, so that pushing it to another day, clearly, help pushed it back beyond the due date. So I can just clear that right back out, and you'll see we're back to where we were. You can also re-rank things. And so sometimes, even if something is due sooner, you might say, you know what, it's actually more important that I get this, this little thing done first. And when you change the order around, you'll typically find that that things may schedule slightly differently for you. In this case, it may not make much of a difference because Reclaim is seeing it can get both of those things done at the same time. But the real power of tasks is not just in the time blocking and the control you've got here, but is actually in the integrations that we provide. And so actually, let me come over here. You can see we've got integrations with Jira, Asana, ClickUp, Todoist, Linear. We're going to be launching Monday and Trello, hopefully later this year. Eventually, we'll open up Zapier and a full-blown API so that we can get kind of a long tail of connections. I know that was one of the other follow-up questions here is around connecting with the Things app. I'll quickly just say I love Things. I've been a customer since the very first version of Things, and I think it's a great product. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a cloud-based API, and so I can't promise that there's direct to native integration coming anytime soon. But via Zapier, that may work. So hopefully we can get that addressed at that point. I want to show you just a couple of these example integrations. So we'll start with Jira. It's obviously a very popular platform, and so right. Architecture proposal. So I'm just making a task in Jira, and I'm going to give it a due date. I'm going to say it's due Friday, and I need 90 minutes to get that thing done. And so I'm going to go ahead and create that. I'm realizing I think I didn't assign it to myself, so I need to do that, assign to me. And at this point, what I can do, there's this little button. I've already done the Jira integration. And this little button will go ahead and give me the opportunity to schedule it into Reclaim. And so when I click this, what we can do is we can see that in just a moment here, there it goes. The 90-minute write architecture proposal task got pulled into Reclaim, and in a few more seconds, it'll automatically get scheduled. So if you've used our tasks or you've used our task integration, that may not be a big surprise to you. What I do think is really interesting, though, is that we are keeping your time tracking, in particular in Jira and in ClickUp, and I believe in Asana as well. We do automated time tracking for you based on what's in the calendar. So for example, if I decided to say, you know what, this important, write the architecture, I actually got some of that done already. So let me go ahead and, move it to today. And I'll say I did it, pretty early this morning. I got up really early and I spent an hour writing that proposal. And so you come back over here and you'll see that write architecture proposal is now in the past. And in a moment, we will also see that it's captured here. And another second or two, it'll capture that 1 hour there as well. But what's really neat is that it's actually going to automatically log that time here as well. Jira's UI needs to be refreshed. So there you go. That's when I reload, you can see 1 hour was logged. What's really cool about this is it leads into another core product philosophy, and that is that the calendar is the truth. The calendar is what actually happened. And we really encourage you to think about Reclaim that way and think about your calendar that way because it's best designed and best works that way. So similarly, I could also say, you know what, actually, I didn't do that work. I got distracted, something came up. So let me go ahead and delete that. And you'll see that, again, Reclaim will automatically reschedule and take that hour off the calendar and reschedule it into the future. But again, automatically also unlog the time. And so, oops, sorry about that. So just want you to kind of think about tasks and the calendar as like an audit log or a historical record of where you spent your time. So here you go, that time is now scheduled again in the future. No time has been logged. And hopefully if I reload this, it should have unlogged that time. Okay, it just hasn't pulled it off just yet, but it will in a moment. Yeah, I encourage you to use the calendar as your audit log. You can drag things around like you saw me do, or move it and edit it that way. You can also use these log work features to do it anytime from within the planner, or you can even do it right here, for example. We have different abilities to log work or add time all within the Google Calendar add-on. Okay, so that's tasks and integrations. One little pro tip, if you haven't used Google Tasks, it's not the best task management tool in the world, I'll be honest. But one reason I would encourage you to consider integrating Google Tasks is just for this feature alone. Imagine, oops, sorry, that's the wrong email I wanted to go to. You probably have all gotten this type of email before. Someone sends you a pretty long email and says, please take a look and send me back any comments as soon as possible. And these are those moments when you're working on your inbox and I need more time to do this. So the Google Tasks integration is really nice because right from within Gmail, you can click this Add to Task button, or if you're a keyboard shortcuts fan, you can press Shift-T. And you'll notice that it just put a little task over here in the Reclaim task list. So this is Google Tasks on the right-hand side. And within a few more seconds, we will automatically sync that right in to Reclaim. And you'll know it happened. There it goes with a little due date has been placed on there. And now we will be able to find that email blocked out on my calendar. Again, right now it's free because Reclaim's seeing that I have enough time to get it done this week, with a link back to the thread. And so it's a great way to make time to work on more difficult emails or more difficult topics, as simple as pressing Shift-T to get some time for that. I see one person just asked about Superhuman, the calendar client. We love Superhuman. I used to use Superhuman all the time when I did a lot more email. I don't do as much these days. Unfortunately, we're talking to the Superhuman team. Unfortunately, they haven't put a lot of effort lately into tasks. But as soon as they have any sort of tasks integration, we will definitely make room for it. And I would encourage you to put a feature request in with them, whether it's their own integration into Google Tasks, or even directly into Reclaim. We would love to work with them. For what it's worth, we've worked with other calendar apps, not email apps, but calendar apps. Fantastical and VimCal both have some features that natively support Reclaim synced events. Sort of similarly how you see it here with Planner, where it says family movie night, even though the actual calendar says personal commitment. That's a feature in our planner that will automatically pull the source details and present it to you. Same thing works that way with Fantastical and VimCal because we coordinated together. So we'd love to work with Superhuman as well. And then we had one more question in here. When an activity exceeds a defined time slot, Reclaim assumes it's been done. So let me talk a little bit about that. So if you use our tasks, or you have been using our tasks, you probably noticed that as time goes on, we will put like a little thumbs up on certain tasks. So for example, let's just pretend that this was originally scheduled earlier this morning. The clock ran by, and you'll see in a moment, small task will get this little thumbs up emoji. What's happening there is that Reclaim is putting it into this state that's called done scheduling. And what we mean by that is that Reclaim is is recognizing that the time we carved out for it, there it is, it's got the little emoji right there. Sorry, Google's just a little delayed. There it is. So what's happening is that Reclaim had scheduled 30 minutes, time elapsed over it, and now there's a question, and only you know the answer to the question. Did you actually do the work? We know that we scheduled the time on the calendar, but did it actually get done? And there's really 3 choices for you. One is you can confirm that you did it. 2 is that you can say, I did do it, but I still need more time. Or the third option is you can tell us that you actually didn't do it and it needs to be rescheduled. And so you can click this little reschedule icon here. You can right click on it here if you're in Planner, or you can just delete it right from Google Calendar. So I'll do that option. I'll just delete it. And what we'll find is that in a few more seconds, small task will get back on the calendar. And so for now, what we encourage you to do is to keep, and I mentioned this earlier, the calendar is the historical record of what happened. If you do get into the routine of looking at your day at the end of the day, or you look at yesterday at the start of the new day, and just delete the stuff you didn't really do, Reclaim will automatically put it right back on the calendar for you, so like it did right here. We're working on ways to streamline that. We've heard from some folks that they want us to automatically pull it out of the done scheduling state and back into the scheduled state, and assume you didn't do the work if you don't confirm that you did it after a certain amount of time. So we're exploring some additional workflows like that. Another option is kind of when you first come into the Reclaim UI saying, hey, here are all the things we think you did, can you confirm them, or, check off the things you didn't actually do. But the past is a influence on the future. That's a core concept in Reclaim that I would encourage you to lean on. Okay, so hopefully that covered some interesting new things you've learned about tasks, and we covered habits before that and covered a little bit of calendar sync. The last thing I want to highlight just briefly here, and then we'll wrap up, is Smart One-on-Ones. And so Smart One-on-Ones are, as you'd expect, something that automatically schedules time for you on a recurring basis. You'll notice it looks a lot like habits in many ways. You set a duration, a frequency on which you want to do it. You can actually control the hours that matter to you. So for example, if you look over here, I've set my meeting hours to, Monday mornings, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday mornings. And the other person can do that as well. And then Reclaim will automatically negotiate between time zones, availability, and preferred meeting hours when you can all meet, or let you know if it's not possible to meet with those constraints. So right here, you can see I've got several Smart One-on-Ones all kind of tied up on Thursdays. And when your schedule is kind of in a normal state, it's pretty predictable. It's just like a normal recurring event. It's always at the same spot. But let's imagine instead I go on vacation. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this time as busy, or you could use an out of the office event. Or any one of these other people I'm meeting with could also be, going on vacation, and Reclaim will automatically reschedule the Smart One-on-Ones to the next best time. And so we'll see here in just a moment, a bunch of things will start kind of moving around in response to me going on vacation. Let me reload Google Calendar because, no, just moved. There we go. So because I said I don't want to do meetings on Wednesdays, it put it on Tuesdays. You can see all 3 of those one-on-ones shifted over to Tuesday. And now my Wednesday has started to be free, except for this sad little one-on-one that is not yet converted to a Smart One-on-One. You can convert them. You probably saw that right here. It's very easy to detect and send out invitations and convert them. And actually, kind of late breaking news, in the next day or 2, we are planning to release some really big improvements to Smart One-on-Ones, including an option to not require the other person to connect their calendar to Reclaim, because we've gotten feedback from customers that they didn't like to make that request to them. So as long as you can see the availability of the other person you're trying to meet with, we'll go ahead and just get it started scheduling. We think Smart One-on-Ones are a great way to lean into having Reclaim manage meetings with other people. And I hope it gives you a sense of what's to come with the rest of Reclaim for later this year. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up. I really appreciate all of you who were able to attend and ask questions. You are certainly welcome as well to always pop into this little help chat right here. We also have a Slack community that you can find on our website and engage with several hundred other Reclaim users. And yeah, we're always interested in feedback and questions. And I really appreciate you being along with us as we continue to grow and evolve Reclaim. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.